Story 1. He took me for granted throughout the relationship because he knew I loved him too much to ever want to leave. He needed a plot twist. Story 2. There were plenty of reasons, but the one I couldn't understand was lack of affection. We were together for 13 years, moved to another country together, and lived together for 9 years. During that time, I was a boyfriend, father, mother, friend, and housekeeper. I did all the shopping, was the only one who cooked, cleaned the house, did the laundry, made sure she always had a clean uniform, changed linen because no one else would, and drove her to work. Every day, even on my days off, I would wake up before her to make her coffee and ensure she woke up on time. I spent my holidays attending to her needs, such as driving her grandfather and visiting her family, and got absolutely nothing in return. But I loved her so much and always hoped one day she would wake up and realize what she was doing. But the opposite happened. One day, she basically told me, "I think we're not good together." After trying to reason with her for a while and even offering couples counseling, she ignored me. Finally, I gave up. I had to go home for a medical procedure and was away for a while. She called me and said she found a place to stay and asked, "What do you think about that?" Honestly, I didn't expect that. I asked what she thought was best, and she said we should separate for a while. She moved out before I came back and didn't even take all of her things. I shipped them to her workplace because she couldn't face me. A few months after the breakup, I heard she had a new boyfriend and that she was bringing him home to our hometown. Immediately, everything made sense, and I knew there was nothing I could have done or said. She had already made up her mind and was probably seeing this guy while we were together. I'm glad I didn't lose my self-respect or beg her, even though I loved her with all my heart. That was in January last year, and in December I lost my father, who was my hero. So yeah, not a great year for me, but I am doing my best. Story 3. He was good at apologizing but not accepting correction, so I left with no regrets. Action speaks louder than words. Story 4. Their future ambitions meant they would have to leave the country and would probably never come back. I did not want to leave, so we broke up. Story 5. I did not believe he loved me. I was not willing to risk everything that I had built in life based on him saying he loved me when I did not feel it. I loved him with my whole heart and gave him every opportunity to make me feel safe, but he never did. That was when I had the stark realization that love is not always mutual. You can love someone and they can say they love you, but sometimes that is just performative. Unless you feel it deeply, you will not stay. Story 6. I realized that as much as I loved them, they were not the right person for me and vice versa. I still love her today as a person I admire and wish to match in humanity and kindness. She is married with a child now, and I am extremely happy for her. She deserves the happiness she has achieved. Story 7. I was more fulfilled alone than I was as part of a couple. I knew I could do better and be happier if we broke up. Story 8. I loved him much more than he loved me. I thought he was the love of my life and I was just his girlfriend. At some point, it was not enough anymore. Story 9. I wanted children. She did not. Now she is married and has no children, and I am married and have 2. It was better for both of us. Story 10. Their need to shape reality was so they appeared as the victim. My ex-husband could not accept accountability, did not know how to trust or repair relationships with others, and had black and white thinking that drove him to hate everyone who tried to help him. Nothing was ever enough because it was never what he wanted. I knew letting him go would mean he could finally find what he wanted since he was so adamant that the life he had was horrible. Story 11. We haven't separated yet, but I'm seriously considering divorce just to ensure I never have to interact with his family again. He is amazing, but his family does not like me, and honestly, with the way they have treated me over the years, the feeling is mutual. I have told my husband repeatedly that I do not want anything to do with them. I will never stop him from spending time with them. I just ask that he do it away from me and outside of our house. The problem is we are the only couple who do not have children. This means we get used as a hotel. I have spent 8 years tolerating being disrespected in my own home by these people when they stay with us. His mother whispers nasty things in my ear, body shames me, and has put her hands on me without my consent. She is lucky I did not respond violently the last time she did it. She somehow manages to destroy something of mine every time she stays, from clothing to kitchen appliances I have saved up for. I am at the end of my rope. Our relationship is beyond amazing. It just gets unbearable once or twice a year. Story 12. She was unable to overcome her avoidant attachment. She tried and messaged me at least once a day after I told her about my need for more closeness. However, she did not talk about her day or what was going on in her life for months, and became increasingly emotionally distant from me. That was when I knew we were not compatible, even with communication. She tried to be someone else and was not happy. We ended things together. I still love her and hope she can resolve her communication problems. Story 13. Met him 15 years ago. Spent years in an on-again, off-again cycle where he would break my heart, vanish, then pop back up like a bad Wi-Fi signal. Eventually, he entered a 5-year relationship right after ghosting me for the umpteenth time. Fast forward to after that breakup. Out of nowhere, he messaged me on Facebook, first to ask for a referral to a good therapist since I am one and know the good ones, then to ask me out. That's when it hit me. 15 years had given me more than enough evidence that he was not someone I wanted to nest with, grow old with, or be a parent to my children. Honestly, I realized I was way better than he ever deserved. So I told him I wasn't free for that, through the same messenger thread, no less. Felt amazing. Story 14. He cheated on me. What made it completely unforgivable was that he kept lying about many things. If he had been honest with me, we might have been able to work through it. But all the lies made me realize I could never trust him, and I could not live like that. Story 15. He started to criticize me over everything, nitpicking everything I did. Even when I did exactly what he said, he was never happy. Nothing I did was ever enough for him. He could go on, ranting about all of my faults. One day during one of his rants, he said I was the most annoying person he had ever met and that he hated me. I took the whole interaction as him breaking up with me, so I started packing my things and getting ready to leave. He asked me what I was doing, and I got confused and said, "You broke up with me, so I'm leaving." He started crying in front of me, got down on his knees, and told me not to go, saying no one had ever broken up with him before. He sobbed that I was too nice to him, that he didn't mean it, and kept going on. I was so confused. I ended up consoling him for a while. I told him he would bounce back and find someone else, saying, "Don't worry, there are plenty of fish in the sea." And when he kind of cheered up, I packed my things and left. Never again. Story 16. When I realized he loved me less than I loved him, I understood he did not care about my favorites and dreams. It felt almost like I was just a body for him to use because he was lonely. Story 17. I understand that a breakup can be a deeply painful and complex experience. If you are going through a difficult time, remember there are resources available to help. Talking to a therapist, counselor, or a trusted friend or family member can be incredibly beneficial. Story 18. Knowing that in a few months she is going to repeat the mistakes she said she would never do again, that I am going to end up heartbroken and bitter once she does it to me for the nth time. I loved her passionately, ferociously, a kind of love that ruined my life. So I chose someone safer. Story 19. Sometimes you realize that the worst parts of someone do not make up for their incredibly good parts. I knew this for a year. I gave her the space to change and the support and comfort to know that I was behind her. I also told her what needed to change, such as stop lying and stop shouting over me when I was trying to have a conversation. When she showed me that changing was not a priority, and I realized how lonely I had felt for the last year while with her, I knew it was time to live my life without her. Story 20. I realized he was not someone suited for long-term relationships. He did not like to compromise, did not share well, and did not take responsibility for how his actions impacted others. We had been friends for years, and he had always treated me differently than everyone else. In hindsight, I should have realized it was only a matter of time before I stopped being the exception. I am now happily married to someone who is kind to everyone. Story 21. He had just graduated with his Master of Science degree, and I lived in a place that had no opportunities for the career he loved. The only place he could pursue his career was New York City, and I personally dislike concrete jungles. I let him go because I did not want him to give up his future and passions for me. I knew it would eventually lead to resentment. Many years later, he is thriving, and it all worked out, but I miss him and have not found my person yet. However, I am happy that he is happy. Story 22. He did not want to have children ever, and I knew I did. We loved each other immensely but knew it was not something either of us should compromise on. While I am no longer in love with him, I will certainly love him forever. Story 23. Everything was my fault. She would never apologize unless after a long discussion or argument, but she never changed her behavior after apologizing, making the apology empty. She would never say I was right about anything. Worst of all, she drank daily. Sometimes she wouldn't get home until 3 a.m., sometimes intoxicated. She was a server, so she got off work between 11 p.m. and midnight most nights, but the lack of self-control and not knowing her limit was astounding, especially for someone in their late 30s. She had dreams that I strongly supported, but she did nothing to achieve them. I believe in having and working toward personal dreams and goals, even if slowly. She said she wanted to leave the serving industry to work with animals. She applied to one suitable job at a sanctuary and gave up entirely when she didn't hear back. I wish things had gone differently, but I couldn't keep supporting her lifestyle decisions. There goes 6 years, I guess. Story 24. After weeks of trying to make things better, I needed emotional support because of a family issue. I just wanted a 20-minute call. Again, he avoided me and told me he was going out with friends. He had at least a 30-minute tram ride to get there and could have talked with me. It was the final straw, so I chose myself this time. Story 25. She lied about giving her phone number out. Even after the evidence was shown to her, she labeled me as delusional and insecure and swore she did not do anything wrong, even swearing on my deceased relatives. Story 26. I honestly believe my love for him made him too comfortable, and I was holding him back. Maybe I enabled him to some degree, but for him to grow up, I had to end it. Story 27. Long distance, and she essentially introduced her next relationship while dating me. The signs were clear. I ended things before it became complicated. Story 28. When I came back to be with him, he refused to touch me. A situation I was familiar with due to my ex-husband. I knew that meant he had another woman. I gave him the night of his life and walked away. I gave up on him and love on the same night. Story 29. Found out a few weeks before I asked for a divorce. She told her best friend that she lost feeling for me 6 months after we got together. The only reason she stayed was because she loved how well I treated her and that I was such a nice guy. We were together for about 15 years and 6 months. She was the person I loved the most and the person I never thought in a million years would lie to me. And just like that, she became the person I trust the least. Story 30. She said she would stay in the town she did not want to be in just to stay with me. She had an opportunity to move to a dream job in her career in another state and then internationally. I told her I wanted her to stay, but that would not be fair to her, so I encouraged her to apply for the job, knowing she would get it, and then see if we could make it work. We did for a few years, despite being in different states, but it ended when she went overseas. We still keep in contact and consider her a dear friend who I will always love, but not in the same way as when we were dating. Story 31. He went to a friend's house for game night. It was couples night, and his friend made sure there was a girl for him. They had been together for 5 years by that point. It lasted about another week before all I saw were lies. Story 32. I was trying to be a Christian at the time, and my scripture group kept talking about being unequally yoked, so I broke up with him. It broke my heart, and I tried to backpedal, but he would not take me back. Story 33. Distance and time zone difference of 6 hours. I was in a long-distance relationship with little perspective of closing the distance in the short term, which would have taken 3 to 4 years at the earliest. We lived in different countries. I had just started studying, and she had just started working. Not being able to hug or comfort the person you loved after a rough day was heartbreaking. I eventually decided to end it in the hope she could find someone closer who could actually be there for her. We still remain in contact, and she seems to be happily married. It was especially rough since it also meant losing my best friend. Story 34. More than the fact that he cheated on me, it was that he was capable of looking me in the eye and lying about it. No remorse. Story 35. We did not break up but physically separated due to alcoholism. I told him if he got his life together I would give him another chance. He did. That was over 5 years ago. I am so incredibly proud of him and I do not tell him enough. Story 36. My reasons for breaking up with her. She was impulsive at the time, opioid addict, overwhelmed herself constantly for no real reason, messy and disorganized overall, undiagnosed mental health issues, truly meant well, but her helpful advice came across as, "You're an idiot and here's why." Told me it was okay to open up. I opened up and she would just ignore it. Got mad at me for doing the same to her in response. Emotionally immature. Her reasons for breaking up with me. I was emotionally distant. Never learned how to be okay with opening up on an intimate level. Lazy at the time. Often said things in a way that came across as condescending without meaning to. Alcoholic and drug addict. Suicidal thoughts and depression did not help at all. Emotionally immature. Story 37. His addiction. He passed a month after I told him we needed space so he could work his issues out. Lots of guilt, confusion, and pain, but being a year out from it now, I know if he had not died I would not have regretted my decision. Addiction is just a monster. Story 38. I went to the doctor and found out I have a fibroid. I told my partner that the doctor said I may struggle to conceive someday, and he said, "Oh, that's good. So I can come inside you more often." Story 39. She was still hung up on her ex. I am not giving my all to someone who will not give it back. I am not about to share someone's heart with anyone else, especially given all that I am and all that I do for someone I love. Story 40. I would ask him about his past to better understand him, and he would get very angry and ask me why I needed to know. I recognized that my idea of a good relationship was open and honest communication, and he could not give me what I needed. I had learned enough to know that he had been abused as a child, but if he would not let me in, there was nothing I could do. I gave him the choice. Communicate or break up. He broke up. He came back twice and we tried again, but after the third breakup, I said no and moved on. Story 41. High school sweethearts. Eventually, we were at different stages in life and became incompatible. I still feel love for him, but not romantically. Story 42. She became someone I would not trust again. I know she had been through some difficult experiences, but she started making really bad relationship decisions, and I realized I would never be able to trust her. So I walked away. Story 43. He crossed my boundaries multiple times. I was very forgiving and accepting of mistakes as long as I saw progress, but crossing boundaries is unacceptable. The first time, I gave him a pass because things happen. The second time, I became wary. The third time was the breaking point. Story 44. I did not feel valued or respected, but it got better. It took a year to heal and moved on with someone new. Story 45. He did not want a future with me. He also had no plans for himself and was constantly blaming everything but himself. Story 46. Made me feel the loneliest I have ever been in the 5 years we were together. He blatantly took me and his loved ones for granted. In the end, I did not have anything to hold on to, or rather, the relationship made no sense anymore. I fell out of love, and after years of trying to talk to him and being dismissed or diminished, our breakup conversation took 10 minutes, and I left the flat feeling free. Story 47. I cheated. I don't know why I did it. Well, I do now with lots of therapy and step work. But really, I had no logical reason. It was stupid. Thank God I worked that out before meeting the person I now love more than anything. Without that work, I would have been destined to repeat the same pattern over and over again. Losing that person made me realize how broken I really was. I'm sad that I hurt her. It was really wrong of me, but I just wasn't a complete person. I hope she is okay and happy. Story 48. He ditched my birthday only to find out months later that he was with the girl I told him to stop texting. That one girl who was always the cause of our arguments. I had had enough that day. Story 49. Relationship 1. I finally realized I was being emotionally abused. Relationship 2. He refused to go to therapy or get a driver's license at 30 years old. The driver's license was less important than therapy. He still does not have one, but he did go to therapy. We are both happily married to other people. Story 50. I realized that I did not love her as she loved me. I have had my heart broken, but breaking one is the most horrible thing that has ever happened to me. Story 51. We found out that he had gotten someone pregnant a few months before we started dating. At first, he was okay not being involved with the child, but after a year, he decided he wanted to be in her life. I do not want children. I did not then and still do not. Now, it is non-negotiable for me. I tried to stick it out, but we parted ways after a couple of months of him taking on his dad role. That was 20 years ago. I am happily married to an amazing man, but every now and then, my heart still hurts when he crosses my mind. Story 52. They only loved me on my good days and blamed their own actions for my mental health, causing them to act that way. Story 53. He took me for granted and stopped emotionally supporting me. He kept changing jobs and did not clean up after himself enough. Story 54. The fact that he hid who he was from me for 4 years, and then all the lying and cheating surfaced. I am pretty sure I was the other woman for the first year of our relationship and never knew it because he was that good at keeping a secret life. He wore the good guy hat in front of everyone, including me. I am still not sure if any of the love was ever real or if I was just some prize to him. Story 55. I ended up not being worth keeping in his life during his hard times. I wanted to be a support to him, but he decided to get a new dog and get rid of the person who loved him. Story 56. I was not in a good place mentally and emotionally, and his life was just starting to get better. It made sense for me to walk away instead of continuing to bother him with my problems. Story 57. She refused to match or even have that energy and did not want to discuss or explain it like grown-ups. The last straw was the flirty text to Bob, my best friend Bob, rather than her work husband, coincidentally also named Bob. Oh, and the subsequent 4 a.m. interrogation when she crept back indoors. Story 58. Timing, age, experiences. We both needed more experience being on our own. They were actively trying to be single while maintaining the relationship, and I suppose I was showing similar behavior. We both hated leaving it, but it had to happen. It has been over a decade, and I still miss them, but there was no other way it was going. We would be divorced if we had married. It would be nice to reconnect, but that is a lot of relationships in hindsight. When I hear about them, they are doing well, and now I generally only remember the good times. However, there were many years of resentment. Story 59. Our personalities were perfect and matched really well. Our values, however, did not. She was very liberal, and I was not very political. It was a lovely 6 months with her, but she kept mentioning values constantly. I really loved her, but she could not love me because of that. It was for the best. I hope the next person makes her happy and shares the same beliefs and values. Story 60. She had a lot of growth to do and interests that would take her around the world. I was more dependent. Quality time is my love language. I was looking to settle down. Because we were young, I let it go. Happily married for 9 years. She now has a boyfriend. I was probably right, but think about her often. Story 61. He was extremely controlling, verbally and psychologically abusive. He repeatedly cheated and continuously broke my boundaries. That alone should have been the time for me to walk away. But when I tell you I was madly in love with this man, I would have come back over and over. And I did. It was when I ended up with a very large bruise on my back from him throwing me that I knew immediately I had to shift my entire perspective. I should not have made it to that point. The lesson I took from it is that no, it does not get better. People like that are extremely unlikely to change, and it almost always gets worse. Story 62. Mental illness. I had anorexia when I was 17 and he stayed with me throughout. But at 19, I struggled so badly with depression I didn't want to hold him back. 12 years on, I am still deeply in love with him. I have dated since him, but I look for him in everyone I meet. Story 63. He became addicted to heroin and did not show any signs of improvement. I tried very hard to help for many years until I realized my helping was likely enabling. I had to leave in order for him to have a chance. I hear he is better now. Story 64. We stopped talking. Our work schedules did not align, and he never wanted to discuss any of our small issues when we saw each other. He was the best person I have ever met, but by the end, I was miserable. Story 65. It was mainly about trust issues. I loved them, but the trust was gone. Felt like there was not much left to hold on to. Story 66. He loved me but could not show it in ways that I wanted. Now I am married to a man who does. Story 67. I had concrete evidence of him cheating, but to be honest, I had suspected it for about a year before I could prove it. I stopped loving him almost immediately after that, even though we had been together for 5 years. Story 68. He cheated on me and lied to my face when I caught him after creating a database. I also realized he was emotionally abusive. Hopefully, I will find another person to love more than anything, although I hope that will be me in a way. Story 69. Not yet, but it seems to be a possibility. There is a lack of true, evident commitment, and plans are uncertain. I am not young and cannot keep waiting. I am not sure what to do. Story 70. You should have done more to get the police's attention about your dad abusing you. Sir, I was a child. I should not have had to do anything. It should have been the adults in my life who knew about it. But yes, of course, why would it not be a child's fault? Story 71. We had the same dreams and goals and we got along well. However, on the weekends he wanted to act single and I had to accept that. It was a ridiculous family custom. His uncles and grandparents did it. I left. It was painful, but I am better this way. Story 72. When you love someone more than anything, including yourself, you are already in a bad situation. Story 73. I couldn't stand the jealousy and bad behavior. I was always blamed for his insecurities. No matter how much I tried or how long I stayed, I was getting hurt too much, so I had to leave. It still hurts. Story 74. After 4 years together, he said to my 26-year-old self, I am not really the marrying kind. He broke my heart. I truly thought he was the one. Story 75. Turns out she was not okay with the idea of me liking my women how I like my coffee, without other people involved. Story 76. I had a deeply traumatic divorce and was not ready. I was still reeling from a psychologically difficult ex, and that would not have been fair to a new partner. Story 77. 2 relationships. In the first one, I needed time, space, and energy for personal growth. I was the immature one. In the second relationship, he did not work on himself and was not open to it. The load I carried in the relationship almost burned me to the ground. Story 78. 8 years together, I was 26. Asking about his expectations for the future, as I wanted to know how he felt about getting engaged if that was in our future without any harsh deadline. He fought, went on a 2-hour walk to think about it, came back and didn't say anything for about an hour. I asked him what he was thinking, and he said, "What did you expect me to come back and just propose to you?" He had no idea how hurtful that might be for me to hear, highlighting how differently we saw our relationship. Story 79. She was a narcissist who never did anything wrong. It was always everyone else's fault. She blamed me for her seeing her ex while also going on dates with a third man. Story 80. She did not want to work together to resolve conflict. She was someone who would rather be right or wear me down until I apologized just to stop arguing, instead of collaborating to find a solution we could both agree on. I could not see continuing like that for the rest of our lives and called off the engagement. Story 81. It was making me miserable and sent me into a deep depression. It was slow, and I did not realize how much damage was done until I decided to break up. I felt the weight lift off my shoulders and started to feel life with more optimism than before. 3 years of depression for a relationship was not worth it. I knew it. I always did, but I loved her too much. I do not regret it, though. It was the most difficult decision I have made. Story 82. Because no matter how much I loved him, the constant lies, betrayal, controlling me as if he owned me, and emotional abuse broke me. Staying was destroying my self-respect and peace. Story 83. He wouldn't stop using cocaine. He lied to me for 6 months, saying he had stopped. The breaking point was when he sexually assaulted me while he was high. I stayed, hoping he could change. I asked him again yesterday to please stop. He told me that he does not love me and has not for quite some time. He said he is tired of having to carry my needs and emotions. I walked away. There was nothing left to save this time. I tried, I really did. Story 84. Well, he cheated, so we are close to non-existent, but his little lies like stop it and just get everyone off your back and be with me, or we will not be a thing by Christmas. Story 85. When asked why he was breadcrumbing, he said, if you are not happy with what I am giving, messaging once or twice a week, you can leave. I left. I still do not know how to feel about it. Story 86. After a long, painful, drawn-out game, I realized he was a psychopath. He later admitted it. If you know anything about that type of personality, you understand. Story 87. I was truly in love with my first girlfriend and wanted to spend our lives together. Unfortunately, in our early 20s, she went through a rough patch after losing her job and fell into a depression. One weekend, she drank way too much, went out with friends, and admitted to me the next day that she had sex with a man she met at a club. She was very upset about it, and I believe she felt completely disgusted with herself and was deeply sorry. She begged me to forgive her and sought help for her depression and feelings. Unfortunately, I tried my best to move past it, but after a couple of weeks, I realized that things would never be the same. My feelings and trust toward her had changed, and I had to break up with her. Story 88. He realized his lack of affection but never worked on it, citing that it would take time. We were together for 5 years and 7 months. Story 89. Seeing him upset because I could be normal due to a strict family, I wanted happiness for him. I let go because of deep love, even if that meant not holding hands and not sleeping together forever. Story 90. I was wrong for her, and the only way for her to be happy was without me. She knew it deep down but ignored it, so I had to do it. Story 91. I loved her, provided for her and our 3 dogs, 2 hers, 1 mine, and medically cared for her autoimmune disease and numerous other medical problems. One night, her phone, which I paid for, woke me up, and I saw all the messages to her ex. For days after I spent about $5,000 on a new apartment for us, she broke up with me after I asked if she felt well enough to have sex. I did not expect a breakup from asking my partner for some quality time. She had been bedridden from fibromyalgia and sick with pneumonia for the past 2 months. Later, she assaulted me in the kitchen when she came home late from an unknown place and saw all her belongings packed by the door. Then, about a month later, when she finally moved out, she took my dog. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.